What is up, my dudes? This is Trent with the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Today's episode, I have my week 8 waiver wire ads. I have my top 15 early waiver wire ads. I'm doing this on Sunday night. If you want more up-to-date waiver wire ads, go over to X, check us out at tffdudes. I will have all, more waiver wire ads on X Tuesday morning, so you won't want to miss that. Or you can sign up for my email that goes directly to your inbox at www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com, or just follow along at X at tffdudes. Like I said, all of today's waiver wire ads will be below 55% rostered. And I'm going to start, I'm going to hike it off to my quarterbacks, snap it, whatever, the football analogy. Then we'll hand it off to the running backs. And we'll throw it to the wide receivers. And then we'll do the best we can to get some tight ends involved. There's actually some good tight ends on today's list. And I have my week 7 all duds team. And a little bonus here. Everyone on this week 8 waiver wire ad had more fantasy football points at the quarterback position than the, Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, even there's a lot of guys out there saying, do we have to play Patrick Mahomes? I don't want to, beat a dead horse, but I don't think you have to. He's playing the Raiders this week. They're 15th against the quarterback, middle of the road. I have some other guys on this list that I like as well, but I'm going to start this out with Russell Wilson, who finishes quarterback 1 in my fantasy league this week. He had 24.86 fantasy points. I know Mike Tomlin said, hey, I did a little Lone Ranger. I put Russ in, without really asking anyone. We all kind of thought he was a little bit more closer to Tonto, but we got Russell Wilson as QB1 in my league. All the weekly finishes aren't updated on Fantasy Life or PFF yet, so I'm just going off of my league because it's Sunday night. Russ got George Pickens involved. That's all we really want as fantasy owners, is to get George Pickens involved. He, Firemouth had a couple good plays too, but Russell Wilson completed 16 of 29 pass attempts for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns while adding 3 carries for 3 yards and a touchdown on the ground. It was the Jets. The Jets are a tough defense. And Russell looked, he was good. QB1 on the week. You can't hate on that. They're playing the New York Giants next week. This is just a whole, New York revenge tour or something for Russell Wilson. I don't know why I said revenge, but it's a good spot for Russell Wilson next week. There's no teams on bye this week, but I'm going with Russ. Next on my list, I have Drake May, who is 26% rostered. And all these guys are below 55% rostered on Sleeper, guys. Not sure if I said that yet, but that's how we always do it. Sleeper's a great sponsor of the pod. Drake May completed 26 of 37 pass attempts for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also adding 3 times, rushing for 3 times for 18 yards. They did lose the Jaguars in Jacksonville, and they do play the Jets this week, who are usually tough against quarterbacks. We will see how they do. I know Russell Wilson had a good game. I don't love the matchup for Drake May, but he's on your waiver wire. He's 26% rostered. He has back-to-back 20-point fantasy finishes. He's worth the ad, guys. And then next is our favorite one. NFL is absolutely always better when Jameis Winston is taking snaps behind center, guys. Jameis Winston is the quarterback. And I'm not here to, take a victory lap about Deshaun Watson rupturing his Achilles, but we've all wanted Jameis Winston all year. And it's kind of sad that this is what it took to get him in there, because most people could see that Jameis Winston probably put them in a better position to win games. Watson's a shell of himself. Winston goes in there, starts slinging TDs, and he's going to turn the ball over. But he's going to throw touchdowns too. Jameis Winston, must-watch football. Interviews are always great. Touchdown celebrations are great, whether he's with a strobe light on crutches in the locker room or eating W's before the game, which I got Jameis Winston here, guys. He is 0% or 3% rostered on Sleeper, completed 5 of 11 passes for 67 yards and a touchdown in the Browns' Week 7 defeat to the Bengals. He brought them within striking distance, guys. He entered the game late in the final frame after Deshaun Watson and DTR both were forced out. He wasn't even supposed to suit out. He got 8 fantasy points. He went 5 for 11, 67 yards in a TD. I know it's not a lot of fantasy points for today, but he has a matchup versus Baltimore, who, teams do have success versus them through the air. Next on my list, this one's gross. I said this last week. He's still there. And what was he on the week? He had 14 fantasy points against the New Orleans Saints. I have rookie Bo Nix, who 14 fantasy points. He rushed for 75 yards, But this matchup is a matchup made in heaven this week, guys. He's playing the Carolina Panthers. Marcus Mariota just looked like a good quarterback today versus the Carolina Panthers. You can play Bo Nix this week. It's a good matchup. He's going to run around, fire up your Broncos defense. Those of you that have had them on, who got them, that defense is incredible. They're going to eat again this week. I think you can play Javonte Williams, and you can play Bo Nix also. On the passing side, I know Sutton had a dud this past week and probably should have been on the all duds list. He's not on there. Sometimes those Thursday night games slip through the cracks. I'm sorry about that. And that's all my quarterbacks. I have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Bo Nix, and I'm going to hand it off to Ray Davis. Ray Davis, he's found the end zone. He didn't find it last week versus the Jets. He found it this week versus the Titans. This could turn into a little bit of a committee with James Cook. I don't have snap percentages yet. He had 5 rushes, 41 yards, and a TD. He looks good, guys. He continues to make a case to receive more playing time, even when James Cook's healthy. Rookie running back capped off a score with a 16-yard touchdown late in the fourth quarter. I think Davis is a playable option this upcoming week in Seattle. And then I got Tyler Goodson. As long as Jonathan Taylor's out, I think we can play Tyler Goodson. He had 11 fantasy points. He had 14 attempts, 51 yards, and a rushing touchdown. They're traveling to Houston to take on the Texans next week. Then I have back on the list, like he never left. We always talk about him. Jaylen Warren, 12 carries, 44 yards, no touchdowns, only 6 fantasy points. But he looked like he looked explosive. And I think Najee Harris plays better when Jaylen Warren's in the lineup. You have that 1-2 punch. It's not it's like who is it? Who's the Lions? They're Sonic and Knuckles. It's not quite Sonic and Knuckles with these two guys. Maybe it's more of like Sonic and Belly. I don't know. But don't watch Sonic that much. I did get the reference, though. Belly, I know, is not a character. I need to update my whole Sonic character list a little bit better. My kids do watch Sonic, so I should know a little bit more. But yeah, Jaylen Warren looks like the opportunities will be there. Pittsburgh might go with the hot hand. I do think Najee's the guy they want to finish the games out with. And Najee's looked good the past 2 weeks. They are taking on next week. They got the Giants, like I said, with Russell Wilson earlier. Handcuffs. These are guys that need to be added, guys. Trey Benson. James Conner hasn't played this week. But you know how James Conner, life, death, taxes, and James Conner eventually is going to miss some games. I have Kamani Vidal. Chargers haven't played either. Same thing with J.K. Dobbins, unfortunately. Emmanuel Wilson backing up Josh Jacobs. Packers like to run the ball. JaMychal Hasty. Didn't feel like I could put him in as a waiver wire ad yet. Think this needs to be a handcuff guy. Not ready to blow fab. And then Sean Tucker, who was on the list last week. Thought about it a little bit more, and I just don't. I need to see more from this Tampa Bay running back by committee before I say, hey, let's go all in, because you still have Rachaad White. You still have Bucky Irving. I want to see how Sean Tucker fits into this whole scenario. All right. Then what do I got next here, guys? Oh, that was my running backs. I got my all duds list, guys. And it's sad, like always. The all duds, week 7, just to open up some old wounds. And basically, if you weren't a running back in the NFL this week, you had a pretty bad game, it seemed like, because Russell Wilson was QB1 with how many fantasy points? 24. That's not like he didn't light the world on fire by any means. 24 points is solid. But all duds team, wide receivers couldn't catch a cold this week. Running backs, all running backs were good. You go look at all the scores from running backs. It was hard to mess up on running back this past week in week 7. Week 7, all duds team, CJ Stroud, 5, and all my duds team, they all have to be started over 50% on sleeper. CJ Stroud, 5.3 fantasy points. This was a game that we thought, would have some fireworks. Stephon Diggs goes out there, gets in a scuffle before the game. Didn't do too much after that. He had some plays here and there. Alvin Kamara, Thursday Night Football, 5.4 fantasy points. Tyrone Tracy had around 4 fantasy points. Devonta Smith, 0.3 fantasy points. That's not all. Tank Dell, 0 fantasy points. Without Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Come on, man. What is going on over there? Stroud, rally the troops, brother. Sam Laporta, 3 fantasy points. And then just, absolute knife to the back. I do my start sit show every single Saturday and Sunday on X, not a show, it's just a post. And I answer all of them. Had over 150, tweets, posts. People ask me start, sit. I told all kinds of guys to play Jamison Williams and Tank Dell, and those guys just were absolutely hot garbage. Lots of better guys in the waiver wire. I still think you can play those guys this following week. Those guys are both in offenses where they can go off at any time. I would say to play them again if you asked me. I think you can play without even looking who those guys are playing this week. Absolutely fire up Devonta Smith, Tank Dell, Jamison Williams, CJ Stroud, Alvin Kamara. It was a rough week of fantasy football. I think we all kind of want to forget about it. I'm going to quit talking about it. I think that's what's best for everyone. So wide receiver waiver ads, guys. And I got some Hail Marys. I'm going to end with it too. So wide receiver waiver ads. Dontavian Wicks back from the dead. Back-to-back games of having less than 4 fantasy points. He found the end zone, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 48 yards, and a touchdown, 12 fantasy points on the week. And it was a nice 30-yard touchdown in the second quarter. Longest play of the day for the Packers. Playing the Jaguars this week. Good matchup for wide receivers. Jordan Love's going to be coming back this week. And I still think he can play Wicks. I like Wicks a lot, and he's finally back. Maybe he's a feast or famine guy. I don't know. Seems like a rich man's Gabe Davis so far this year. Next, I have Cedric Tillman. He had a touchdown at the end of the game. Did he have a touchdown? He did not have a touchdown. He had 14 fantasy points. So he had 12 targets for 81 yards. No more Amari Cooper, guys. The Browns wide receiver room is Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and Cedric Tillman. David Njoku stock's going way up right now, right? But Cedric Tillman, maybe it's just a guy that has some chemistry with Jameis. I think he's worth the ad, worth the flyer. 2% rostered on Sleeper. Could see Jameis just, hyper targeting this guy. Probably should have been before Cedric Tillman. Keon Coleman looked good today. I think that Amari Cooper is going to take some pressure off of this guy. 7 targets, 4 catches, 125 yards. He's had a couple big plays this year. 16 fantasy points. Addition of Amari Cooper definitely took some pressure off Keon Coleman. And then I have Demario Pop. Call him Pop. Demario Pop Douglas. Caught 2 of his 3 targets today. Not his best outing. He missed a lot of the second half with an illness. And just like NFL, these guys who get sick, is there any way we can do a better job of knowing these guys are sick? Because Pop wasn't the only guy that had this happen. I think Pop can he's a good guy that needs to be on your team. They got New York Jets and Tennessee, so kind of some tough matchups coming up for the Patriots. But Demario Pop Douglas should be on a roster. Ricky Purcell, Brandon Ayuk out for season, potentially with an ACL injury. Don't know at the moment. This guy's going to get thrown to the fire a little sooner. They're playing the Dallas Cowboys this week. He's 24% rostered. He had 5 targets for 3 catches, 21 yards. Without Ayuk, I think Ricky Purcell is a must add. Juju Smith-Schuster absolutely killed your fantasy football teams today. We talked about how much we liked him this week in this matchup. Gets the hamstring injury early in the game. And got you a nice 0. Also could have made the all-dud team. He was 15% started. He is 52% rostered, 20% started. So he couldn't have made the all-dud team. Rashad Bateman hasn't played this week. He's putting up solid numbers. A lot of double-digit games. He usually hovers around that 10-point fantasy spot. I think he can do a lot worse than Rashad Bateman. I think the guy should be added on your He should not be on your waiver wire. He is 23% rostered. And then just some Hail Mary wide receiver throws. Noah Brown, Commanders win. At the moment, I don't know exactly how bad Jaden Daniels is hurt. I know it's a rib injury. Don't know if he's going to miss any more time at all. But I like Noah Brown. I think eventually he's going to get going. Troy Franklin, he was college teammates with Bo Nix. I think Troy Franklin could start. The better Bo Nix gets, maybe Troy Franklin. This is a deep, deep throw, guys. And then Bub Means. A lot of guys really liked him this past week. He got started a lot for New Orleans with Spencer Rattler being in there. Did not have a great game. None of the Saints did. Curious to see if Rattler gets the nod in week 8 or if it is Jake Haener. Haener got him a touchdown when he was in there. I know I was talking about how much I liked Rattler more than Haener as a Fresno State guy. It was hard to do, but I don't hate Bub there. Can we call him Bubba? I feel like Bubba's a way better name than Bub. And then on the list, like always, a tale as old as time. Hunter Henry. Guys, this guy needs to be added. He is tight end 11 on the season right now with a couple guys not playing in my fantasy league. He had 13 fantasy points this week, 11 fantasy points the week before, back-to-back double-digit fantasy football performances. He had 9 targets, 8 receptions at 92 yards. Did not get a touchdown. He had a couple really nice plays for Drake May, though. He's a good, close safety valve for Drake May. The targets are there. The receptions are there. Playing the New York Jets. Maybe he gets involved again this week in that matchup. Then last on my list, I have Jonnu Smith. Back-to-back, week 5, he had 8 fantasy points versus the Patriots. He had 19 fantasy points against the Colts, playing the Arizona Cardinals, who are not great against the tight end. Smith caught all 7 of his targets for 86 yards and a touchdown in the 16-10 loss to the Colts. Jonnu Smith, is he turning into the only guy we really want to play for the Miami Dolphins pass catchers? Like, I think you can play Devon Achane still, but Tyreek Hill hasn't scored has not scored double-digit fantasy points since week 1, possibly turning into the biggest bust due to Tua. But Tua is coming back, guys. So it sounds like he's coming back. It sounds like he's practicing in week 8. I did drop Jaden Waddle in a league, had to just make him a landmine in someone else's team because it was just too hard to play him with how bad the quarterback play is. I said this on X, I'll say it again. The biggest inexcusable thing that happened this offseason is the Miami Dolphins absolutely not finding a backup for Tua. The guy's had multiple concussions. You'd say if he has another one, he might not be able to play again. And you get your quarterbacks, you get Ty Huntley and you get Skylar Thompson. And I'm missing one guy. I can't remember his name. There were guys out there that could have been way better. You could have got Drake May. You could have got Sam Darnold. Could have got Joe Flacco. Mason Rudolph. There's a lot of guys that are way more competent than what you had there. Why not draft a guy in the NFL draft? Take a shot on someone in the 4th round. They were out there. So anyways, guys, let me know what you thought about this. Give us a like, give us a sub. If you have any friends, share this episode with them and tell them, hey, check this guy out. He's a nut. Or, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. I don't care. We got our week 8 preview coming on Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Remember to give us a like, give us a sub. Remember, don't be rude. Share the dudes. Give us a follow on X at tffdudes. Helps us out. And we will see you guys next time. And as always, guys, take care.
This has been another episode of the Fantasy Football Dudes podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow. For more information, go to www.thefantasyfootballdudes.com. And remember, we are sorry for absolutely nothing.